Hello viewers and welcome to another match of Warhammer 40,000 Conquest. My name is Mitch and I am the Hive Tyrant. Today we've got a semi-final game from the winter 2016 season of Sam Mann's Black Crusade, his online Conquest LCG competitive league. And for today's game we have Antariss versus Prezi in another Broderick Worr mirror match. So it looks like our players are both currently going to be assessing whether or not they want to keep their opening hands, and let's take a little bit of a glimpse in regard to what may be at their disposal. So starting with Antariss at the bottom of our screen, he's got a Rattling Deadeye early game economy unit here, same thing with Tallarn Raiders. Looks like Antariss is going to throw out a mulligan right away, so best of luck to him finding something a little bit better. Looks like his recycled hand isn't exactly stellar. He's got a copy of Squig Bomb and a popular include to counter forward barracks, monumentally powerful signature support here of Broderick Worr. He was fortunate enough to get a commissarial bolt pistol, which means Broderick Worr, whom is conventionally kind of ignoring big combat planets, that definitely adds a hell of a lot of firepower to him. And if he's able to keep drawing cards, if he's able to come into units, say at the beginning of the command phase, this copy of Staging Ground could really help him against Prezi. And then, of course, the Emperor's Warrant, depending on where exactly Broderick Worr on the other side of the table goes, that could be great in tapping a unit and then having it potentially kill off another unit. But kind of a dearth of command icons for Antariss here, and hopefully that's not going to hold him back too much. Something very interesting is it looks like Prezi came across 2 troop transports as well as an Elysian assault team. So the troop transports at a green planet are going to be able to burst. They're a limited keyword card, but you can potentially generate 2 guardsman tokens at a green planet. Those are soldiers, so Elysian assault team keys off of them. And it looks like Staging Ground can just result in, I guess, both players have a copy of Staging Ground, and that could just result in a lot of punishment being directed toward Antariss here. So Prezi doesn't exactly have a tremendous number of command icon units, but he's at least got a little bit more than does Antariss. And depending on where he distributes those economy units, thanks to troop transport, thanks to Staging Ground, Broderick Worr here at the bottom of the screen attempting to snipe off those units could definitely be in a lot of trouble. But something to keep just an eye on is Rattling Deadeye plus Staging Ground could result in a 2 attack value ranged unit dropping pretty much anywhere. Squig Bombing could blow up Staging Ground prior to its ability to deploy a 2 or lower cost unit, and then this Mystic Warden could potentially be dropped into play to attack for 3 for the cost of no resources. And of course we've got a preemptive barrage under just Antariss's employ here in his hand. So both of our players are currently working their way through their initial allotment of resource tokens. Prezi's got some pretty decent units. He's got this ever-popular pick, Stalwart Ogren. I don't really care for it myself, but it's immune to enemy events. You could conventionally have it sit at a non-green planet, and it's still immune to Archon's Terror. Looks like we're kind of foregoing planet number 1. So planet number 1 is going to be blue. It's the currently under contest planet. It's Eloith, 2 card bonuses, and you can search the top card of your deck, well, the top 3 cards for any 1 card you'd like. And I'll have to be surprised who sends their Warlord to this planet just to try to get that powerful battle ability, just to try to draw upon those bonuses. We do have our planets 2 through 4 with those green strong point icons, and if you have not memorized this very popular Warlord's effect by now, every AM unit at a green planet will be attacking for an additional 1, and it can't retreat or be routed. So something curious to keep in mind is by the time we get to planet number 2, the first of our green planets, like a player could win 2 through 4, and that could potentially be the game for them, and Antariss is going to have initiative at planets 2 and 4. So if he can make this work, it's entirely possible that well, I guess we see a Mystic Warden at planet number 1, so that's potentially Eloith being captured for Broderick here. But if we've got initiative for Antariss at planets 2 and 4, he might be able to win kind of sneakily just through picking up these planets. We've got a Snakebite Thug now at planet number 1, and I'll have to see if that encourages Antariss to show up at that planet or not. This Mystic Warden is only going to be able to attack for 2 at a blue planet, so there's no way in hell that it's going to be able to beat this Snakebite Thug, which itself is a 3/4 with a command icon for 2 resources that damages itself, but the initiative is currently in the possession of Prezi, and what's nice about Prezi is, like, even if by some miracle this Snakebite Thug was killed, an Elysian Assault team could drop into play, help kill off the Mystic Warden, help damage Broderick Worr, and the troop transport is going to be another fantastic option. And if Prezi comes across some resources, comes across some cards, it's also entirely possible that one or both of our players could make use of Staging Ground. So, Prezi's used all of his resources, which is nice. He's got 3 formidable combat units sitting out here upon the table. He's got that troop transport, which is great, and I feel like that is such a powerful card. It's going to end up making a tremendous bit of a difference in regard to who wins this game. So I think at the moment, just based upon opening hands, I believe that Prezi is strongly advantaged despite this commissarial bolt pistol being affixed to Antariss's Warlord, and now we're going to be in the process of deciding where exactly we want to send our warlords. Note that planet number 4 is going to be Antariss. It's the planet that if you control fewer units than does your opponent, you've got the chance of winning it. Currently, Broderick has only got 3 units relative to the 4 of, Antariss only has 3 relative to the 4 of Prezi. If you can't tell, this is still a very early morning match here. So I wouldn't be shocked to see Prezi show up at planet number 4 just because Snakebite Thug kills Mystic Warden, Snakebite Thug captures that planet, but Antariss will have the opportunity to trigger Antariss and accrue 3 cards just because he's got so many resources here. Something that we could see the Emperor's Warrant used at some point, depending on the movement of Prezi's Warlord, but you're really going to want to save that for its maximal effect. Like a Snakebite Thug, you could exhaust that to deal 3 points of damage to an Anxious Infantry platoon or something along those lines. And because we've got that platoon here at Planet 2, even though it's not going to have initiative, it's a little bit tricky sometimes for... Like, attacking for 3 isn't tricky for Broderick Worr, but attacking for higher than 3 can be tricky. So if you don't have, like... Well, I guess if Prezi has any number of shield cards to preserve the Anxious Infantry platoon, that's going to be a significant deterrent for War, for Antariss's War to show up at that planet. Looks like both of our players have decided where they want to send their warlords. Planet number 1 is going to be Prezi's destination, and to no one's surprise, Antariss indeed arrives at planet number 4, so it looks like he is going to be able to trigger Antariss. Definitely something you never want to see your opponent be able to do, but we're going to see a lot of early game just economy work in the favor here of Prezi. So this is going to be 1 card and 1 resource for Antariss, and then quite a bit more. Yeah, 3 cards and 2 resources in total for Prezi. Prezi gets a copy of Ammo Depot to continue his just massive income of cards, and then we'll have to hope to high hell that Antariss ends up getting something pretty damn decent here from Antariss, just because he did come across a copy of Snakebite Thug, which is going to be great to try to stem this economic tide that Prezi is starting to develop. Very interestingly, I guess Prezi has another copy of Ammo Depot, so I guess that's a card he really wants to see, but it's definitely a card that, in a lot of ways, kind of affords a lot of diminishing returns. The second you get out, like a second or, God forbid, third copy, like, it is way less useful. But if we can see a huge, just influx of cards, that could really allow Prezi the opportunity to just be incredibly efficient with all of his units. Just absolutely fail to put anything into play unless it's absolutely mandatory. But here at planet number 1, the Mystic Warden is already killed. That's going to be Elowith affording Prezi with the chance to look at the top 3 cards of his deck and to add any one of those to his hand. We might see Forward Barracks out of those 40 cards. If we do, we've got Squigbomb to essentially level the playing field. But still, even though Forward Barracks is such an incredibly powerful card, I'm a little bit loath to use something like Squigbomb just to reattain parity, but a lot of players are kind of the opinion that if you see a Forward Barracks, that may as well be the game right there. So you know, different strokes for different folks, I guess. And considering our players in this match, I'm not exactly sure how they do things over in the European regions, but let us see what Prezi ends up settling on. He must have a pretty difficult decision because he's certainly taking his sweet time in picking, and I guess during the following round, initiative is going to bounce over to Antariss's side of the table, and then we're going to start seeing some of our prime victory condition planets. So it looks like Prezi has placed a card face down on the table with what he's going to be adding to his hand, and I'm just very curious indeed to see what exactly it's going to be. I guess it's going to be a copy of Preemptive Barrage, which could definitely just be invaluable when it comes to winning planets where you may not have initiative. Like this platoon being able to attack for 4 is just fantastic during ranged. And then the Stalwart Ogren can attack for 3. Broderick himself can attack for 2. This Commissarial Bolt Pistol, of course, is going to boost up Antariss's Warlord to a base attack value of 3. And then whenever an army unit leaves play, you can pick a target enemy army unit, or I guess a friendly army unit, to deal damage to. So Tariss is going to continue to be a problem because we've got Rattling Deadeye positioned at this planet, and this is a very interesting effect. So looks like Prezi has decided to use his troop transport to drop 2 guardsman tokens at this planet. It's going to be Broderick Worr's opportunity to attack, but we're going to have Preemptive Barrage as well. Like what we could see is we could see Staging Ground, Sakhalem Shrine Guard, Preemptive Barrage for 3 ranged attacks, but we've got this Elysian Assault team. We've also got Sakhalem Shrine Guard. Okay, here we go. So this is where it's going to get interesting. We saw Troop Transport explode. That's going to be the Rattling Deadeye attacking for 2, killing one of these guardsman tokens. We did not see a shield used. Now it's going to be the Elysian Assault team and this guardsman token. Okay, I guess that's very interesting that we're seeing this, so many units being front-loaded. Okay, I guess what's going to happen is we're going to see Preemptive Barrage, so let us hope. What does Antariss have in shields? Antariss has got a copy of the Emperor's Warrant that he can use, and I feel like that is just going to be absolutely devastating here for Prezi. So Prezi is investing a hell of a lot of resources in this effect, and we will have to see if it pays off for him. My heart tells me that it's not. The heart of the cards, as it were. And there we go. That's going to be the Emperor's Warrant. So we saw Staging Ground dump a Sakhalem Shrine Guard into play. It could attack for 3. We saw an Elysian Assault team dropped into play. Preemptive Barrage gave range to all of these. That's going to be the Emperor's Warrant tapping the Sakhalem Shrine Guard. That means it's going to deal damage equal to its attack value, not its printed attack, but its attack value of 3. It's going to kill that Elysian Assault team, and looks like Prezi's taking a hell of a gamble, and it's not going to be paying off for him, it looks like, because Broderick is going to be able to attack for 3 with initiative, and that's going to be, well, I guess this guardsman token. Okay, so the guardsman token does get to attack during ranged. It's going to be able to kill the Rattling Deadeye to remove it, just because Tariss is going to continue to pose a problem for Prezi. If Antariss were to activate that turn after turn, that would just be incredibly problematic. Looks like Commissarial Bolt Pistol is going to deal a point of damage to the Sakhalem Shrine Guard, but now Broderick Worr is going to have the opportunity to use his first combat turn because he's got initiative, so he can take a shot. Looks like he's deciding to kill the Sakhalem Shrine Guard, which is an interesting option, but you definitely want to get rid of that. You don't want to allow that to retreat, if at all possible. Prezi's only got 3 cards in hand now. He does not have any shields, and that is, I guess he got rid of the Emperor's Warrant for his opponent. He killed a Rattling Deadeye, but at the cost of a Troop Transport, a Preemptive Barrage, and the Sakhalem Shrine Guard. And now we come to the end of a combat round. Of course, Broderick disallows any AM units from being able to retreat at green planets, therefore Prezi loses his last Guardsman token. Antariss hangs around, and he's going to be able to trigger it. He's only got 1 unit left. He's definitely not looking very good in regard to command, but he's going to be able to reel in 3 cards, and that little bit of a gamble just definitely did not exactly pay pay off for prezi, and holy mother of hell, could you ask for a better few cards to pull in as Antariss? Oh man, and things only get better and better when we go through the HQ phase here. So he got a copy of Troop Transport, Elysian Assault Team, a cheap command icon possessing unit, his monumentally powerful signature army, and the Emperor's Warrant as well. So that is one hell of a fair few effects to see in, and now all of a sudden I'm kind of cheering for Antariss here. I thought that prezi might just have this in the bag, but what did prezi get? He got some pretty damn decent stuff of his own. We see a copy of Ammo Depot to keep those cards coming in for our economically more powerful prezi. He's got a copy of Snakebite Thug, which is Staging Ground eligible. It's not going to get a bonus from Broderick Worr, but a 3/4 for 2 is hard to say no to. We've got a copy of Troop Transport that's going to splash down on the table. We've got 3 green planets in a row here. Our current 6th planet is going to be Yavarn, which, note, is green. Looks like we've got a copy of Talarn Raiders at planet number 3. And I would not be surprised to see Antariss try to trigger Taurus once again. So the Talarn Raiders, provided a Warlord, are going to be at that planet. They're able to attack for 3. Antariss is going to have initiative, and at present it's prezi with 4 units relative to Antariss's 2. Antariss is going to be able to adjust up his unit count with Troop Transport if it proves valuable to do so, and then he's also got this copy of Anxious Infantry Platoon he could put down wherever he'd like. Iridial wouldn't be the worst destination in the world for it, and prezi's going to have his movement confined thanks to the presence of this Snakebite Thug. So we actually see Squig Bombin destroy Ammo Depot prior to its ability to be used, and now if we can see like a card choke occur, if Antariss can block off, like let's say he walls off his opponent here, he maybe denies a card. If he can wall off his opponent here because he keeps sending his Warlord there, he can get a shitload of cards for himself, disallow his opponent from earning cards, and then if the same thing can be said at Aatrox Prime, if he could dump some economy units there, things could work out very favorably for him. So this is going to get very interesting. We've got Anxious Infantry Platoons at Planet 1, and we could see Troop Transport explode. That's going to be 2 2/2 Guardsmen and the Anxious Infantry Platoon. We could see Preemptive Barrage come into play, and that could allow Antariss to win at that planet. It's just going to be very interesting to see where exactly prezi sends his Warlord. The only things left at prezi's disposal as he plays a second copy of Staging Ground are going to be this 1 copy of Snakebite Thug and a Troop Transport, but of course wherever his Warlord goes, he's going to have a Snakebite Thug with him. So what we could potentially see is if prezi has the audacity to go to planet number 1, like first of all, if prezi doesn't go to planet number 1, he risks his unit being killed, and then nothing can happen. If he goes to planet number 1, he's risking an attack, a ranged attack of 4 and 2 and 2, and that's going to be a total of 8, and unless Broderick has some, like 3 shield cards, he's not going to be able to weather that kind of firepower, so it's a big risk if prezi sends his Warlord to planet number 1, because he could be bloodied, and I'm okay with losing 1 planet if I can bloody Broderick Worr. But let's see where exactly our Warlords are going to decide to go. Currently, both players, I guess it's going to be 3 units for Antariss, 4 units for prezi. Therefore, just like Dracula, Taurus is still a threat. A bit of a giant bomb reference there. Antariss, I can only imagine, is going to show up at planet number 3, but if I were actually playing this match, I'd put much more mental effort into assessing all of our different possibilities. At planet number 2, that would be the healing planet. That's going to be a poor life choice for prezi to arrive at that planet. He could show up at Taurus and try to remove the enemy Broderick Worr from that planet, but if that happens, that's going to be almost even worse, because we could see Talarn Raiders plus Broderick plus a Guardsman token do that same preemptive barrage trick. And really, prezi's Warlord isn't exactly safe anywhere at any kind of green planet. Prezi could set himself up at Aatrox Prime. He could win a card and a resource. He could drop off the Snakebite Thug there to subsequently win, command at that planet. But it just looks like prezi is going to be between a rock and a hard place, where he doesn't really have any awesome destination. And yeah, for Antariss, it's pretty much abundantly clear. Looks like Prezi goes to planet number 4, so he's going to be able to take a shot. Aatrox Prime is going to be able to hit the HQ of his enemy here. Both of our players are going to end up winning command on 2 different planets. I guess 1 planet, because of the Anxious Infantry platoon isn't actually going to hack it. Prezi gets 2. Okay, wow, that is a hell of a thing. This is my favorite card in the game, actually. It's Prezi gets 2 cards and 1 resource. I don't think it's necessarily the most powerful or always the most powerful card in the game, but it is my personal favorite. He gets 2 copies of the Emperor's Warrant. What's awesome about it? It's a fantastically powerful event. What sucks about it? Well, I guess first of all, it's got 2 printed shield icons, so that could definitely change things here at planet number 1, but it's just hugely powerful if you can keep the enemy Warlord away from combat. But considering that Antariss here has got, his Warlord with the bolt pistol, I think he's pretty okay being involved in combat. Prezi himself only got a card and a resource, but he got an ammo depot, and what do you want? You want these hugely powerful cards. When you hit 3, exhaust your ammo depot, draw a card. It's pure profit very quickly. We are going to move on to combat. We see the Anxious Infantry platoon take a swing. Are we going to see the discard of the Emperor's Warrant or not? If we see it discarded, this platoon survives, and then that's going to force Broderick Worr to detonate that troop transport to kill this. But if he does, then that would bring his unit count to 4. And therefore, he's not going to be allowed to trigger Antariss. I guess what kind of sucks is, like, Antariss is going to be able to win the battle at this planet, but if you notice something, now his unit count is 3. He's going to win this planet, but he's no longer going to be able to trigger Antariss. So it's kind of a crappy situation. Like, if Prezi would have shielded against that effect, he would have taken an attack. He could have encouraged this troop transport to be detonated. The guardsman tokens could have killed Prezi's units, and then that also would have disallowed the activation of Antariss here. But, whether or not you can win Antariss, that's going to be a green icon added to Antariss's victory display, and the only thing that Prezi has is blue. So if Prezi manages to win at our soon-to-be planet number 1, if he's going to win at our soon-to-be planet number 3, those could be blue tech icons, and that could allow him to win the game. But it's just looking like this stranglehold is slowly starting to be established by Antariss, because as soon as he's got ammo depot, as soon as he's got, well, I guess if he stumbles across his only other copy, no, I guess he's still got 2 copies of troop transport left in his deck. If he's able to stumble upon those, then things are going to be much easier for him. And both of our players have got the Emperor's Warrant. Both of our players are going to be heavily incentivized to send their warlords to planets, but I guess Prezi's going to have to be pretty careful lest his warlord end up being bloodied. And I think something just fantastic for all these Broderick Worr mirror matches that we're seeing are these Elysian assault teams where, just like troop transport, you can kind of adjust your unit count after the fact to try to get that bloodying, just because, if I haven't said it before, Broderick just seems to absolutely crumple the instant he is bloodied. As a 2/5 who doesn't prevent Anxious Infantry platoon from routing, who all of a sudden all of your units are subject to Archon's Terror, and they no longer get that attack bonus, it just makes a huge bit of difference. And if your opponent can preemptive barrage hit a 5 HP already bloodied Warlord, then things can just go very badly very quickly. It looks like Antariss has momentarily disconnected, and now we're just going to have to wait a moment to see if he reconnects, and then hopefully our match is going to be able to progress as expected. All right, so it looks like Antariss has reconnected. And what is he going to be doing? He drops a Snakebite Thug into play. So this is going to be battle occurring at Aatrox Prime. We have got that Snakebite Thug. Antariss indicates that he is done with actions. And something important to keep in mind is, just as Antariss was able to derive big benefit from the Emperor's Warrant, Prezi has that same opportunity, and Prezi is going to be at that dangerous resource threshold where it should be abundantly clear to Antariss that that is indeed an option. So let us see how exactly things are going to be breaking down here. Broderick takes a shot at the Snakebite Thug, so it's going to take 2 points of damage. Broderick, of course, has initiative, and this is going to be the Thug having the opportunity to attack for 3 against Broderick Worr, our healing planet Iridial here. I can only imagine that what this means is that Antariss wants to get as much damage as possible onto the enemy copy of Broderick Worr, and then use preemptive barrage at a later date, like if it's possible. If we see a bunch of units deployed to planet number 1, Prezi can make sure that his Warlord shows up there, and he could just make things a complete nightmare to almost guarantee that the enemy Warlord could end up being bloodied. So that was kind of a subtle effect. I suppose at the end of the combat round, the Snakebite Thug could retreat, or it could stay. What's very interesting is if the Snakebite Thug, like, okay, initiative is in Broderick's hands. Broderick decides to retreat, but he's still got initiative. If the Snakebite Thug stays, because it's an orc, he's got the choice of whether or not it stays. If it stays, Broderick is going to be able to swing and kill it. Then we could see the Elysian Assault Team drop into play. Then we could see a Guardsman token generated by Troop Transport. I guess Antariss is going to decide to stay. I don't think this is necessarily going to work out very favorably, but we'll have to see. The Snakebite Thug is going to be killed, and I can only imagine that's maybe to just keep your unit count okay, I guess. Oh, so I'm sorry, I did my math slightly wrong. I forgot that the Snakebite Thug damages itself. So Elysian Assault Team is going to drop into play. It's going to take a swing, damage the Snakebite Thug. If the Snakebite Thug attacks, it's basically going to kill itself unless we see shield cards used, and then we could see Troop Transport used to drop a Guardsman token into play, and that's just going to be all the more damage to the Snakebite Thug. It's going to be all the more pressure to shield. It could be this Troop Transport being forced to be popped. There's just all sorts of different possible effects that could come into play here. So I suppose we might see the Elysian Assault Team retreat. I imagine that Antariss is just trying to get rid of as many powerful shield cards as possible from his opponent that's only sitting on a total of 3 cards. Or maybe he just wants to get this Troop Transport used prior to where it could come into play at these green planets. And because Prezi's Warlord has got 3 points of damage, I think all of a sudden things are looking pretty decent for Antariss. I guess Antariss decides to stay with his unit. The Snakebite Thug takes a shot. It's going to end up killing itself. And, okay, yeah, Antariss indicates that he's done, and that's going to be the HQ being the subject of an attack here. So Antariss's Warlord now takes 1 point of damage, but presuming Broderick is going to show up at Iridial, he's going to make it incredibly, like, if Prezi sends his Warlord to Iridial, I feel what's going to happen is it's going to be preemptive barrage, resulting in his 3 HP Warlord being easily bloodied, and that would just go all the way bad here. Prezi, I can only imagine, must have been expecting a Broderick Worr mirror, and he drew a couple very interesting tech cards that I imagine are going to be anti-Broderick Worr in nature. He got a copy of Catachan Outpost, and he's also got a copy of No Mercy. So now any of his units are going to be able to attack for a +2 value bonus, and you know, thanks to Catachan Outpost, and then if he can exhaust his Warlord, that's going to be a shield card canceled. So Antariss puts out a copy of Ammo Depot. He puts a copy of Mystic Warden at planet number 1, which is going to be able to attack for 3. Our new 5th planet is yet another green planet. It's going to be Barless. Prezi can basically send his Warlord anywhere that he wants. But here's what kind of sucks. If Antariss wins planet number 1, like Antariss, I can only imagine is going to be sending his Warlord to planet number 1 so he can win initiative. He can try to deal a whole bunch of damage to the enemy here. That's going to be this healing planet. It's really safe for him. If he wins that planet, that's going to be a second green strongpoint icon added to his victory display. If Prezi forgoes that planet, he doesn't really have a good victory condition. He could do Planet 3 and Planet 4, but he is so close to being bloodied. He's got so many staging grounds. He's got so many troop transports. It's going to be pretty dangerous for Antariss wherever it is that he wants to go. But the moment that Prezi's Warlord leaves a planet, the Emperor's Warrant could make a big difference. This preemptive barrage could make a huge difference, whether it's bloodying Broderick, whether it's trying to kill a bunch of guardsman tokens, and even this Snakebite Thug is currently sitting outside of the earliest possible victory condition for Prezi, so maybe it's going to result in some net card gain for Broderick. Maybe the Snakebite Thug is going to result in card gain for Prezi, but perhaps not. We could see Antariss put out his Psyker at Planet 2, the Sanctioned Psyker, to win at that planet. Maybe Prezi will go to that planet, but then Prezi's not going to be able to go to Barlas, where he probably wants to go to draw some cards, because he's got those troop transports, but he doesn't exactly have like the income of cards required to just really use these staging grounds. So I still feel like Antariss is doing reasonably well in this game. We've got the option of troop transport changing things big time. It's going to be very threatening for Prezi to show up to a green planet, but he's still got the Emperor's Warrant. So really the only place he very much needs to be afraid is going to be wherever Prezi sends his Warlord. This is interesting. Antariss is doing much better than Prezi is in regard to resources, so we could potentially see Squig Bomb used to eliminate a troop transport or any number of other things, just because they would result in two units being created at green strongpoint planets. We've got two troop transports for Prezi, so he could potentially put 4 units at Planet 1, and I just think it's going to be a hell of a contest at Planet number 1 between both of these players. I can only imagine that Antariss will be showing up at that location, and if Prezi doesn't send his Warlord there, the Emperor's Warrant is going to be able to potentially do a tremendous amount of damage to Prezi's forces. Prezi is really going to want that healing effect, but I'm just not exactly convinced he's going to be able to capture it, and so long as Antariss is going to be able to keep his Broderick hale, even with just 1 hit point remaining, that is going to be a resulting all of that damage being removed. So things could change dramatically here if Broderick is going to be going to some other planet. If this Stalwart Ogren gets to attack Broderick, it's going to be able to do so for 5 with the assistance of Catachan Outpost, and then No Mercy means that Broderick Worr here on Antariss's half of the table is going to be bloodied, so I wouldn't be shocked if both of our Warlords end up being bloodied by the time this turn is done. But let us see where things are going to, end up. This is an incredibly tense mirror. I'm actually pretty happy that I'm not one of these players engaging in this match. I've played a couple of Broderick Worr mirrors of my own, and it's just like mental anguish. So I guess we'll have to see if Antariss is going to be clever enough to play around that No Mercy. What is great is the Emperor's Warrant is an action, Catachan Outpost is an action, so we could see, like, the Stalwart Ogren is going to be immune to enemy events, so it's going to be the fantastic contender. It's very much immune to Emperor's Warrant is what I'm trying to say. But under normal circumstances, any other unit, you could say, okay, Catachan Outpost is going to boost this unit up to 5 attack value, then you could use the Emperor's Warrant to exhaust it and just absolutely wreck something else. But what will we see? Even a lowly Guardsman token would be able to attack for 4, thanks to Catachan Outpost, and then No Mercy is going to practically bloody Broderick, but he may have an opportunity to retreat. If that is the case, both of our players have finally decided where they want to send their Warlords. Antariss goes to Planet number 1, and we see Prezi go to Planet number 3. So this is going to be pretty interesting. Prezi is going to be reasonably secure at being at a blue planet where troop transport plus sanction, like the Sanctioned Psyker is attacking for 0, so it's not going to be posing a threat to bloodying Broderick. In a troop transport, there's not going to be any kind of preemptive barrage style tricks. Antariss gets just one card and just one resource. We get Captain Marcus, which isn't going to be useful for him to see. But for Prezi, we get a copy of Tallarn Raiders, which themselves are going to be able to attack for 3 at the same planet as a Warlord. So potentially Prezi could drop 5 units at this planet, which is just a complete nightmare. Interestingly, we see Preemptive Barrage used now. And this is pretty fascinating. So Preemptive Barrage is going to grant these 3 units ranged. Note that we did not see Troop Transport detonated yet. So this is going to be Broderick Worr and the Mystic Warden having the opportunity to kill this Stalwart Ogryn prior to anything else. But if Broderick Worr becomes exhausted, then he's going to potentially be bloodied, especially with the Catachan outpost here. So this is a pretty interesting choice of, I guess, antariss, but let's see how it pans out for him. I guess in an ideal situation, like currently, antariss has initiative. He's going to attack with the Mystic Warden. He may be able to kill the Stalwart Ogryn. He may not. If we see the Emperor's Warrant used as shields, he's not going to be able to kill it. Then his Warlord will kill it, and this is going to result in, I guess, like, okay, let's say Mystic Warden attacks. We see the Emperor's Warrant used as shields. Broderick Worr attacks. The Stalwart Ogryn is killed. We see a Troop Transport pop. We see the Emperor's Warrant tap one of those tokens, kill the other token. Then we see another Troop Transport pop. That will be... So the initiative will still be in the possession of Broderick Worr, antariss, I mean. He can generate a troop transport. He can attack first for 2. That will presumably be a dead guardsman token, unless we see No Mercy discarded as shields. And then between those tokens, I think it's just going to be 1 token attacking for a modified 4. I'm kind of doing the math fast and loose, but I think we may just end up seeing it where antariss, his Warlord, only ends up with 4 points of additional damage prior to the end of the combat round, presuming that everything is going to end up resolving like I thought it would. So let's see how things are going to end up going. Mystic Warden is going to take a swing at this. The more attacks, the better. Either the Stalwart Ogryn is killed now, or we see the Emperor's Warrant used to keep it alive. If the Stalwart Ogryn dies, we have to see a Troop Transport used currently, because otherwise, Broderick is just going to be able to outright win this battle. And then he's going to be removed from the planets. If the Stalwart Ogryn dies and we see Troop Transport used, Broderick is going to be able to attack and kill one of them. Then the Guardsman token could swing for 4. Like, it could be modified thanks to Catachan Outpost, but if that's the case, the Emperor's Warrant for antariss, all that's going to be able to do, and I guess what, I kind of screwed up my math, Tallarn Raiders can be put into play via Staging Ground. So I'm thinking that Broderick Worr could, I guess antariss captures Iridial. So wow, I think if things would have gone rather differently, if we would have seen both of these troop transports popped, if we would have seen the Emperor's Warrant used as shields, if we would have seen No Mercy used as shields, if all of those effects would have worked out, that could have resulted in I believe, a bloodied Antariss's Warlord, and Prezi would have been hanging out totally hale. So now what we're going to see is we're going to see Aatrox Prime won by Prezi, and that's going to be a point of damage to the platoon, to Broderick, and antariss is going to be set up nicely with initiative at our soon-to-be first planet, Aatrox Prime, and I cannot help but wonder if that would have been Prezi's opportunity to maybe win the game here. It's going to be a hell of a slugfest at our soon-to-be planet number 1, but Captain Marcus is going to be able to drop in at this planet. He's going to be able to exhaust target non-Warlord units, and I guess for Prezi's sake and for Antariss's sake, honestly, it's just going to be up to both of our players. Like, Antariss had better hope to high hell that he comes across another copy of Troop Transport, and then apart from that, really, it's just both of these players are going to be praying to draw into their copy of 4 forward barracks, and of course, Antariss has a slightly higher probability of doing that thanks to this ammo depot. And I guess it's all going to come down to who is going to come across more, just more combat units. Like if Antariss ends up getting a bunch of, I guess the dream draw would be 2 copies of Anxious Infantry Platoon and then also a forward barracks, but we'll have to see just what happens. The Catachan outpost exhausts and then it readies, so I suppose Antariss isn't sure of what exactly to expect. Or, sorry, Prezi is not sure what exactly to expect. I'm struggling this morning to keep my players' names straight. The Snakebite Thug takes a swing at the Sanctioned Psyker. It adds a point of damage to itself. The Sanctioned Psyker is going to be attacking for 0 in response. And note that if we have Antariss win our soon-to-be first planet, that's going to be the game. If Prezi wins that planet, he's going to have to pick up just 2 additional planet-type icons of any kind. So if it's planet soon-to-be 2, soon-to-be 3, that'll be the game for him. But note that, Antariss here, his Warlord is going to be able to attack for 3, and I just cannot help but feel like, I guess what Prezi is going to have to do is he's probably not going to want his Warlord showing up at planet number 1 because he's just looking to be, kind of just wrecked. Like, if we were to see another copy of Preemptive Barrage, that would be Antariss being able to bloody him, but, oh god. Okay, I guess Antariss didn't exactly get what he was probably hoping for, and then kind of the opposite is true for Prezi here. So what Prezi could do is Prezi could put out a Rattling Deadeye and Anxious Infantry Platoon and Talon Raiders at planet number 1. He's got plenty of resources to fund that effect. I guess if Antariss were to give up planet number 1, he'd have to readjust his victory condition to be, like he could win planet 2, he could win planet 3, so I'll be curious to see if Antariss does end up trying to fight for planet 1, or if he decides to let it pass. I guess he could do Captain Marcus to sacrifice, like AM units to exhaust non-warlords. But currently, we've just got this Talon Raiders, we've got the Platoon. Prezi's actually looking like he's in a pretty decent spot. This could definitely just be anybody's game, wherever a player sends his Warlord, he runs the risk of, wherever his Warlord is not, the Emperor's Warrant could be a major factor. So it's going to be Anxious Infantry Platoon at planet number 1. He may not necessarily have initiative, but that is just, monumentally threatening. We see a Sanctioned Psyker being put out to planet number 2, and now I just cannot help but wonder, is Antariss going to allow planet number 1 to be captured by Prezi, and is he going to try to win at planet 4? He could be playing a little bit slower, a little bit safer game. I wouldn't be shocked to see Antariss send his Warlord to planet 4 just to try to pick up those bonuses, to try to set this Anxious Infantry Platoon up at that planet, and maybe we'll just see things pushed ever so slowly. Like, maybe this is going to become a much longer game. I suppose only time will tell. Prezi is going to have to be forced to play his Talon Raiders, yes, to planet number 1. And I just take this as a bit of a sign that Antariss is going to readjust his victory condition. He doesn't have a preemptive barrage or anything like that, so Prezi has invested pretty heavily in planet number 1. Maybe this next round we'll see Antariss win Aatrox Prime, and then if that happens, we might see Antariss set up to win at this planet here, because he's going to be able to deal with the Platoon, the Thug, and the Talon Raiders arriving exhausted at a planet, and maybe he's just going to try to readjust his victory condition to, maybe bloody the enemy Warlord. But something very interesting we could see is this Rattling Deadeye dropped into play at any planet courtesy of Staging Ground. It's going to be able to attack for 2, modified up to 4, thanks to Catachan Outpost, and then we could see that No Mercy to be 4 basically unpreventable damage dealt to Antariss's Warlord, but he'd still be sitting at 1 hit point if that's the case, and it's entirely possible we could see the Emperor's Warrant to exhaust the enemy Rattling Deadeye, die, it still has to deal damage equal to its attack value to another target unit at that same planet, but that could be one of Antariss's own units, like this platoon, just to prevent that damage from occurring. But then if that's the case, if Antariss exhausts his Warlord and he's at a green planet, then those troop transports are definitely going to make a bit of a difference here. Okay, so this is pretty interesting. So we see Prezi go to planet 4 to pick up a couple of cards. We see Antariss go to planet 2 so that he can fire into the HQ of Prezi and deal damage to these units here. I guess this Talon Raiders is only going to be able to attack for 1, but it could soften up the enemy copy of Talon Raiders. Antariss comes across his copy of Forward Barracks, and that could make a big difference as to the outcome of this game, because the longer that Antariss can survive, if he's got the Forward Barracks and the opponent does not, then that could definitely change everything. And he's got a copy of Squig Bombin as well, so he could use that to destroy the enemy's copy of Forward Barracks and basically lock himself into some attrition-style victory. We could see the Emperor's Warrant being used at Planet 1. It could do something like, let's exhaust the Anxious Infantry Platoon to deal 4 points of damage to the Snakebite Thug. We could still see these troop transports used. So it is entirely possible that Antariss could end up winning the battle at this planet. He's got the Anxious Infantry Platoon, which could dramatically change things. Both of our players have got copies of Emperor's Warrant, so I guess let's see how things do or do not change. This could be a very radically changed battle. Like, it's looking like it's just going to be a landslide loss for Antariss, but that need not necessarily be the case. Prezi did come across a copy of his own copy of Squig Bombin, with which he could use to destroy this Forward Barracks. I suppose in regard to command, Prezi came across 3 cards in 1 resource in Antariss, only got 1 card in 1 resource, so this is an absolute masterpiece of a game. And this is where things get pretty interesting. Anxious Infantry Platoon drops down to planet number 1. It's going to be able to attack for 4. Will we see the Emperor's Warrant used or not? There's hardly a better time than the present. It could be the platoon exhausted to kill the Talon Raiders, but the Raiders themselves are only going to be able to attack for 1. And then maybe that'll be the Emperor's Warrant used by Antariss to kind of level the playing field. Maybe one or both players are going to use a copy of Troop Transport, and then I suppose one or both of our players could also take their enemy by surprise by using Squig Bombin to destroy their copy of Troop Transport. So Prezi is thinking, what are his options right now? He could use the Emperor's Warrant to basically remove his enemy's units from the equation. He could use his, I guess he's got to deal with an attack first. So he could, yeah, all right, that's going to be a copy of Squig Bombin destroying this troop transport. So we'll have to see if that ends up working out or if it ends up haunting Prezi just because Forward Barracks is going to interplay the next turn, and then maybe that's going to basically lock out Prezi from being able to win, but he poses such an enormous threat to Antariss's Warlord because of that No Mercy and Squig Bombin combo that I still think it could be anyone's game at this point. And 2 troop transports versus 0, being able to drop 4 guardsmen token out is just so incredibly daunting to try to overcome, especially in the context of this Catachan outpost. And things are starting to look a little bit grim for Antariss. It looked like it was crappy for him to start, then it started to look like he had a big glimmer of hope and that Prezi was going to get crushed, but just in part due to what our players drew when, things all of a sudden aren't looking so favorable for Antariss. Antariss indicates that he is done with actions, and now it's going to go back to Prezi. So Prezi is going to have an option to either use an action or he's just going to have to suffer an attack. Will he use the Emperor's Warrant or not? He's got 3 resources, so he could do that. Note at planet number 2, Broderick on Antariss's side of the table is easily going to be able to kill off that copy of Snakebite Thug, and because that's not a green planet, it's essentially like there's no risk of Broderick being really harmed this round. we do end up seeing the Emperor's Warrant used, and that's going to be the Anxious Infantry Platoon exhausting to kill Tallarn Raiders, and then that is going to be initiative again going to Prezi, and he's going to be able to attack for 4, 3... I guess 1, and kill off this platoon without too much trouble. Antariss, there's nothing that he could do apart from just use the Emperor's Warrant. I suppose what he could do is he could use that to tap the platoon or the Snakebite Thug. Whichever one of those units is exhausted, it could potentially kill the other. The Tallarn Raiders would not be able to kill it, the Anxious Infantry Platoon, in just one combat round, and that would force, well, I guess, no, I misspoke, because Catachan Outpost changes that equation, and we could even see Staging Ground used to drop a Mystic Warden into play. So it's looking like Antariss now is suddenly fighting an uphill battle, but things are going to get a little bit easier for him with the creation of this forward barracks. But it's all going to come down to, is he going to be able to achieve a sufficient unit volume so as to pose a threat to Prezi, or is Prezi going to come back into this and then just end up steamrolling the opposition? So what's curious here is this planet's going to be won by Prezi. Planet number, like during the following round, our Aatrox Prime is going to be planet number 1. Antariss is going to be favorably set up at that planet, but Prezi will have the initiative token. If Prezi sends all of his units to that planet, he's potentially going to incur some attacks. If Prezi instead sends all of his units to planet soon-to-be 2, the victory condition for Antariss, the readjusted victory condition there, then that could be Aatrox Prime firing and damaging all of those units and really softening them up nicely for Antariss to potentially win. And Antariss does have this copy of the Emperor's Warrant, so I still cannot help but feel like at this point, despite these troop transports, despite the staging grounds, despite whatever Prezi ends up drawing, this could indeed be anybody's game. But it's going to be Antariss attacking for 3. There's absolutely nothing that Prezi can do about it, so why bother thinking? That's going to be the Snakebite Thug destroyed. The only thing that could have possibly saved that unit is going to be the timely interjection of a commissarial bolt pistol. Were that to happen, the Thug itself could have attacked Worr for 3, or I guess 5, and then we'd have maybe seen that Emperor's Warrant trick used to exhaust that unit, but that is not the case. Antariss indicates no actions. The Snakebite Thug is going to be dead. Prezi, will he indicate no actions, or will he start using the troop transports to put 1-2 guardsman tokens one at a time in play? It's definitely not worth doing that, and that's going to be Aatrox Prime blasting each of these units, and that is a lot of damage going out. But let's see Prezi indicate that he is done with actions so we can move on with our lives. Very excited to see how this match is going to resolve. Thus far, it's been a little bit stressful to watch, so it's just anybody's game. And remember, whichever of these two players ends up winning is going to be advancing from the semifinals to the finals of the Winter 2016 season of the Black Crusade. And if that occurs, I mean, whoever wins this game is going to be fighting a gentleman named D-Lord, Octagon user D-Lord, and whomsoever between those two ends up winning is going to be crowned the inaugural Black Crusade champion. So we see troop transport used extraordinarily suboptimally. That's going to be a guardsman token dealing a single point of damage to Broderick Worr. Why is this significant, you ask? Because it's going to set up for a Catachan Outpost, no mercy, bloodying. But the Emperor's Warrant is still very much going to be a thing, so my prediction for what we're going to see is we're going to see the other troop transport pop, like the Sanctioned Psyker attacked this unit. I assume, well, I guess we could also see Mystic Warden, Rattling Deadeye. There are a million different options. So yeah, that'll be the Mystic Warden dropping into play. I imagine it's going to be Catachan Outpost used on this. It's going to be buffed to attack value 5, but then the Emperor's Warrant is going to exhaust it. It'll kill this Guardsman token. So it's going to be up to, like, basically right now, it's going to be up to Antariss to take an action or not. He can use the Emperor's Warrant now, or he can hold on to it. If he doesn't use it, he's going to take an attack of 3, or his opponent is going to use an action to buff this unit. And then he's okay, so he uses it now. All right, so let's see how this is going to go. Mystic Warden is going to kill the Guardsman token, but it's exhausted. And here's what we can see at this point. We could see Troop Transport drop a Guardsman token into play. The Guardsman token could attack for 3, thanks to the Catachan Outpost. There's nothing that Antariss is going to be able to do apart from shield at this point. Antariss is out of resources, so he cannot remove this Troop Transport. So what we might see happen is a Guardsman token attacks okay, yeah, so Antariss used a card, now he draws a card. He was not fortunate enough to come across a shield, and that means things may just go to shit right now for Antariss. So, Troop Transport, Catachan Outpost, Guardsman token attacking for 3, Broderick Worr at 1 hit point. Staging Ground, 4-1, Rattling Deadeye attacks for 2. That means there's absolutely nothing that Antariss is going to be able to do to prevent his Warlord from being bloodied, and therefore this game could change dramatically at the very last moment, where a bloodied Antariss is all of a sudden, each and every one of his units is going to become so much less useful. Like, let's say if Broderick Worr is bloodied, that means that Broderick is going to be removed from this planet. Forced reaction. At the end of this combat round, you have to pay 1, otherwise you have to retreat with the Anxious Infantry Platoon. Antariss cannot afford that effect, so he's going to be forced to retreat with this unit from that planet, and the Sanctioned Psyker is not going to be able to win, and then Aatrox Prime is going to be able to fire, and I believe if that happens, then things are just going to be insurmountable for Antariss. That's going to be the Rattling Deadeye dropping into play. It's only going to attack for, well, I guess the Rattling Deadeye is just attacking for 1. It's not augmented by the Catachan Outpost. And then I guess, yeah, what we're going to see is that's going to be an additional point of damage on Broderick Worr. Will we see Troop Transport, Guardsman token, no mercy for the bloodying? I suppose you may as well finish it here, Prezi, so let's deal that bloodying blow. Antariss has added a point of damage to Broderick Worr. He indicates that he has no additional actions. Let's see it. I guess Prezi indicates that he is done with his actions, and very interestingly, I guess we're going to come to the end of a combat round, and we do, actually have to see, like, note that this is a, I guess I have to say army units that retreat are destroyed. So, the Anxious Infantry Platoon has to retreat, and it's going to be destroyed. And that is going to be Broderick taking a shot at the Rattling Deadeye here, and now things are about to get very interesting. So I guess the Anxious Infantry Platoon has left play. That means the Rattling Deadeye is going to take a point of damage. Yeah, so, yep. I just want to take a moment to say, yes, you are correct. Just making sure that one thing got caught. Yep, so anyways, okay, so Anxious Infantry Platoon has to retreat because there's no resources to keep it in play. It has left play. Commissarial Bolt Pistol is going to trigger. Rattling Deadeye is going to be assigned a point of damage. We probably will not see No Mercy used to shield against the Rattling Deadeye. So let's say the Rattling Deadeye is killed. I can only imagine that Antariss, I guess he's going to either abandon this planet or he's going to stay with his Warlord. If he stays, he's going to have initiative. Okay, I guess the Sanctioned Psyker retreats. Yeah, so that is very interesting. I guess he has retreated the Sanctioned Psyker, and that is going to be another point of damage dealt to the Mystic Warden. And then Broderick is going to, I guess for the life of me, I can't quite figure out why we threw away that copy of Sanctioned Psyker. But I suppose if you wanted to retreat with it, that is totally fine. I guess someone let me know in the comments what the rationale was behind that move, and Antariss, if you're watching this, I apologize. I didn't doubt that you know, the left play thing. I just wanted to make sure that that little interaction got caught, because it looked as though that unit were retreating to HQ, but there we go. Troop transport, Catachan outpost. That's going to be an attack of 3. That's going to be Squig Bomb and discarded as shields. That is going to be no mercy used. And that is going to be a bloodied Broderick Worr. So let's make sure that we have that occur. And that is going to be a 2/5 Warlord jettisoned from that planet. That's going to be Aatrox Prime firing into the HQ of Antariss. And now talk about an uphill battle. What we could see happen is, I guess, between either of our players, it's all going to depend on what are we going to see played to planet number 1. Are we going to see Prezi send his Warlord to planet 2? Let's see it. This is going to be a random card discard at planet 3, so we're going to come to the end of a combat round. Then Broderick Worr is going to ready. That is a discard of Captain Marcus. It is not forward barracks, but, you know, forward barracks isn't going to do a whole hell of a lot if you can't make it to the end of a combat round. So as much as God, and oh, frig. So, okay, Antariss came across a copy of Elysian Assault Team and an Anxious Infantry Platoon, so he can do the platoon and he can do the forward barracks. But Prezi came across a copy of the Emperor's Warrant and another Catachan Outpost. He's also got a copy of Steel Legion Chimera. So at present, neither of our players is looking to do too terribly well in regard to command. Antariss has got the obvious benefit of having the 2 ammo depots working in his favor. Prezi's got 2 staging grounds, but he could potentially have 2 copies of Catachan Outpost at planet number 1 if Prezi sends his Warlord to that planet. Like Broderick, Antariss cannot risk going to planet number 1, because if Prezi does, that's going to be possibly 2 Catachan Outposts allowing Broderick Worr, controlled by Prezi, to attack for 6, and that's going to be a dead Warlord for Antariss, and that's going to be GG right there. Game over. If Antariss goes to planet 2, that's just not going to be hugely beneficial. Prezi may go to planet 3 to try to collect that card bonus, but therefore I wouldn't be shocked to see Prezi deploy that Steel Legion Chimera or something like that to planet 3, and because Antariss isn't going to be able to kill like a Steel Legion Chimera in a single swing, if we see a Catachan Outpost allow it to attack for 5, that could potentially be the destruction here of Antariss. So Antariss is going to have to pick very carefully indeed what in God's name does he want to do with his Warlord here, because he is at an intense risk of being killed. We see Steel Legion Chimera being played at 2. That is the victory condition planet for, I guess, Antariss. Antariss puts out a copy of Anxious Infantry Platoon. If Antariss goes to planet 2, he's going to have to retreat with his Warlord, otherwise risk being bloodied. And what makes this so difficult is, I guess he doesn't know for sure that Prezi doesn't have another copy of No Mercy. For all we know, my dear viewers, Prezi may draw another copy of No Mercy, and if Prezi has this Catachan Outpost, if he's got staging grounds, if he's got Elysian Assault Teams, he could radically alter any combat significantly, and the Emperor's Warrant could result in, if Antariss moves his Warlord away from a planet because he's afraid of being bloodied, or sorry, if he's afraid of Warlord death loss, then that could be the Emperor's Warrant sealing this match, and it could rob any glimmering hope of a victory that Antariss may have. So this has been a spectacular game played out by both of our players. I feel honored to have the opportunity to actually spectate this match, and I can only hope that my voice and throat manage to persist to see this match through to the very end. But we've already made it this far, dear viewers, and I'm not about to abandon you now, so this has been one hell of a game, and let's see how it continues to play out. So, our last action has been Prezi passing. He's only got the 1 resource. Antariss is stuck with a tricky decision. Does he want to do forward barracks? Does he want to use Anxious Infantry Platoon? Let's think about our options here. If Broderick, under the employ of Antariss, like if his Warlord goes to planet number 1, if Prezi shows up with his Warlord. That could be 4 points of damage. That could be a murdered Warlord, so that's probably a poor life choice to go to planet number 1. We could see forward barracks used, or we could use anxious infantry platoon. We could see this planet reinforced, and thank you there. Now I don't need to have to theorycraft quite so much, but oh wow, talk about a stroke of luck. That is anxious infantry platoon, ammo depot draws a copy of troop transport, and now it looks like things are much more favorable for antariss here. But what sucks about this current situation? Anxious infantry platoon, after a combat round at their planet ends, you have to pay a resource. Forced reactions take place prior to reactions. So let's say you've got 2 anxious infantry platoons sitting at a planet, then you've got a forward barracks. The combat round ends, you've got to pay up, you've got to pay 2 resources to keep both of these units around, or if you can't, because antariss currently has no resources left, then both of those units are forced to be retreating from that planet, and that means forward barracks does not fire because you don't have any IG units left. So, both of our players have passed. Where exactly is Broderick Worr going to go? If Broderick arrives at 2, he could kill off this Steel Legion Chimera. He could potentially deal out quite a bit of damage to the enemy Warlord, but let's say Prezi goes to planet 2. That means it's going to be antariss with initiative. He could attack for 3, which is not going to be able to bloody the enemy Warlord. If the enemy Warlord retreats, things could be looking pretty grim for Prezi, especially considering this troop transport. That has just been a fantastic stroke of luck for antariss to come across that, and he's also got a copy of Elysian Assault Team, so I feel like this game is just going to end in an absolute grind, and I definitely would not be surprised to see Prezi end up bloodied by the end of this game, possibly on this turn, but we will have to see. I guess, have our players, yes, chosen where they're going to go. Okay, so this is about to get very interesting. Note that there's a copy. Okay, I feel like this is just where the sky falls down around poor antariss. So check this out. Here's what I imagine is going to happen. Wow, this kind of sucks. Planet number 1 is going to be Aatrox Prime. We could see a guardsman token generated at that planet, but then it's going to be initiative in the hands of antariss. I guess, okay, well, let's see. Let's take this one at a time. Planet number 1, that is going to be nothing for either player. Planet number 2 is going to be a resource for Prezi. Planet 3 is going to be a couple of cards for antariss. He got a copy of No Mercy, and he also got a copy of the Sakhalem Shrine Guard, and he's got a copy of Staging Ground, but he has no resources for it. So, planet number 1, we see Prezi is going to augment his Guardsman token with the Ketachin Outpost. It's going to be able to attack for 4. That's going to be a dead Guardsman token. But we're going to see Elysian Assault Team drop a unit into play, and I guess here's all we can see. Like, check this out. If the Elysian Assault Team attacks, that's going to be the Guardsman token dead, or it's going to be the Emperor's Warrant discarded as a shield, then the Guardsman token attacks, and then we could see No Mercy discarded as a shield. So, God, this match just will not relent. Maybe this is going to be Aatrox Prime 1 by Prezi. He's only got a red, green, and a blue icon, so this is not going to be game over. Prezi, if he wins this planet, he's going to be able to blast all of these units, but antariss is going to be able to use the Emperor's Warrant, knock out this anxious infantry platoon, have it destroy the other, and then he can kind of mop up the remains at this planet and set himself up very nicely for a victory the following round. So it's cute that antariss was going to be able to win at this current planet, but I still cannot help but feel like this is just going to be the nail here in Prezi's coffin. Or, sorry, it's the nail in antariss's coffin. I apologize for how many times I've mixed up our dear players' names. So what do we see? Antariss indicates no actions. Prezi his only action is going to be the Emperor's Warrant, but here's what would happen. He could knock out the Elysian Assault Team, and then he'd have no other option but to deal its attack value to his Guardsman token. So in a one-on-one situation, it's basically garbage. Like I said, it's my favorite event. I'm not saying it's my favorite, probably one of my favorite cards. It's not the best card in the game by any means, but it's my favorite effect because it is a game changer, as we're about to see. Elysian Assault Team takes a swing. That's going to be congratulations. Prezi wins that planet. He's going to add it to his victory display, and like a devious sir, that's going to be 5 points of damage dealt out to each and every one of these, well, distributed among one apiece to each and every one of these units here. So congrats for managing to sneakily steal that planet out from under Prezi. But now all Prezi... Well, God, I guess I was wrong. This is not the victory condition planet for Prezi any longer. Because if he picks up this planet, it's... Okay, so I think I had my players confused. Or maybe I didn't. But to cure all confusion, this current planet is no longer the victory condition planet for Prezi. So, the Emperor's Warrant exhausts one Anxious Infantry platoon. It's going to end up killing the other unless we see No Mercy used as shields. But if we don't, it's going to be dying anyway, so it might as well just end up getting killed. Prezi's got initiative at that planet, so let's just see it. Let's say this platoon is going to be destroyed, and then it doesn't really matter what Broderick does, because army units that retreat from his planet end up destroyed instead. So if we see this forced reaction occur, whether or not Broderick is going to be able to kill it through conventional attacks, it's going to end up dead regardless. So Steel Legion Chimera attacks for 3, the Anxious Infantry platoon is going to end up dead. And that means during this following round, we're presumably going to be seeing Yavarn go to Prezi, and then it's going to be up to this final planet. So it's going to come down to probably planet number 7 if we're able to see Prezi elude assassination. So Prezi is going to have... or I'm sorry, if Antariss is going to elude assassination. So it's all going to come down to... during the second to last game round, it's going to be Antariss with initiative. He's presumably going to be sending his Warlord to this planet again. If Prezi comes across like a rattling Deadeye, that's going to be a ranged attack of 6, or if he gets a preemptive barrage. And I guess I'm forgetting yet another thing, so I suppose it just goes to show that after 70 minutes or so, even our dear commentator can get a little bit fatigued. So the Catachan outpost in Prezi's hand is going to be randomly discarded, and now it's all going to be up to kind of the luck of the draw here, is kind of cliche as that is to say. Wow, very interesting. I guess we see a copy of Inquisitorial Fortress being played, well, not being played by Prezi, but being drawn by Prezi, and therefore there's no real reason not to play it. Looks like we've got another disconnect by Dear Sir Antariss. And that's going to be the Inquisitorial Fortress touching down, and that means that if Antariss is going to be able to bring any kind of formidable unit to bear against the likes of... I guess if Antariss is going to be able to bring anything to bear against Prezi, that could be a simple routing effect, removing that from that planet, and that Snakebite Thug is going to be a very stubborn unit indeed, and if it's going to be able to potentially attack for 5, that could just spell disaster very quickly for Antariss. So his Warlord only has 4 HP remaining. As soon as Antariss reconnects, we'll be able to take a look at Antariss's hand. Hopefully he will reconnect, and I suppose let us pause for a moment and see what exactly occurs. Okay, so Antariss is now back, and let's take a look at his hand. So Antariss is going to have, I suppose we had a glitch going into maybe our final HQ phase here. So Prezi managed to get all of his stuff. Okay, so yeah, maybe there was a little bit of lag now. Everything seems to have caught up. So our Octagon client always acts a little bit finicky, a little bit strange whenever there's a disconnect. Our ammo depot's ready. Antariss has drawn a copy of, I believe it was No Mercy, and I believe it was a copy of this Calum Shrine Guard. He puts out a unit to this planet. We see that Inquisitorial Fortress interplay, and now it's going to be just a very interesting couple of things here. So we could see a fair few different effects. Prezi's Warlord is not yet bloodied. Antariss could throw out forward barracks. Or, you know, what he should do is he should use his ammo depots to draw cards and diversify his options. Prezi, I can only imagine, is going to use a Snakebite Thug to play that at planet number 2. He's only going to be getting one resource coming in, and it's going to be abundantly clear to the opponent that he doesn't have anything in regard to shields. What kind of is interesting is we could see this Inquisitorial Fortress being used to route this unit now, and then it will, like if both players send their Warlords to planet 2, that will result in Prezi winning command at that planet, and then if he ends up drawing like a copy of Rattling Deadeye, he will have a resource from here to use Staging Ground to put like a 1-cost unit into play. And if we see Snake, like basically Prezi can give himself 2 additional cards if he uses Inquisitorial Fortress now to remove this unit, or what we could see is he doesn't remove it yet, and then he allows our players, like he allows neither player to draw cards. But regardless, I imagine Broderick is either going to be going up to this planet to tie command, or he's going to be dropping off. He's going to be going to this planet to deny his opponent of 1 resource. He'll use his first combat turn in order to retreat, and then he'll be dropping off this Elysian Assault team to be murdered. So pretty interesting effect. We've seen a copy of Snakebite Thug now being played, and I cannot help but feel like somehow there may be some invisible cards in Antariss's hand. Like I said, the Octagon client gets really weird after you disconnect once, after you've disconnected twice, like Antariss has. Maybe we're having some information withheld from us. So let's think about this. Prezi is in prime position to win at planet number 1, basically entirely uncontested, but whatever player ends up winning at planet number 2, whoever wins the 7th final planet is basically going to end up winning the game. So that is going to be a hell of a thing, and I suppose it still remains to be seen whose game this could be, because it really could go to either player. We've got 20 cards remaining in Antariss's deck. He's got forward barracks, but he's yet to play it. We've got 23 cards remaining in Prezi's deck, but he's yet he's yet to draw and play a forward barracks of his own, and these ammo depots have just been doing such fantastic work for Antariss over the course of the game here. So presuming that the Octagon client is matching what I'm going to be able to see, we could see these ammo depots make a huge bit of difference in regard to the ultimate outcome of the match, just in supplying additional shield cards here for Antariss. Each and every time one of his units leaves play, that's going to be the Commissarial Bolt Pistol firing off, and this is going to be a hell of a lot of units arriving at this last planet exhausted, and we'll have to see if Antariss is going to be able to achieve sufficient unit volume to be able to overcome that. So I guess let's see what's next from our 2 players, because this match is not over yet, and it is just getting all the more ridiculous in time. Okay, so we see Inquisitorial Fortress being used by Prezi. That is going to remove the Snakebite Thug from that planet, and what exactly does that mean? That means if both players' Warlords are going to be arriving at planet, let's see here, looks like we've, maybe got a little bit of an Octagon glitch. It says can't add card at index 3, like maybe slot number 3. So maybe we're not seeing a card in hand. I don't know. Kind of frustrating that Octagon would fail at this very last moment. Yeah, it looks like Prezi is calling out, how many cards do you have? And the answer is 4. So it looks like Octagon is indeed withholding a little bit of information. I'm just going to say it looks like DC caused some issues, but hopefully shouldn't affect the resolution of the match. Okay, so let's say Antaris is at a total of 0 resources and 4 cards, 2 of which are invisible. So I guess we have no idea what that's going to be. So all of a sudden it's like watching one of those live-action tabletop games where you aren't exactly sure what the players have at their disposal. So maybe Antaris has some shield cards. I suppose we're going to have to end up being surprised in regard to what our players have drawn. So that's going to be Antaris sending himself to planet number 2. That's going to be Prezi also sending himself to planet number 2. That means both of our players here are going to be tied in regard to just units present at that planet. That's going to be +1 resource at planet number 1. That's going to be Prezi winning that planet entirely uncontested. And unfortunately, neither player is going to end up drawing cards. So, what's interesting about this is it's going to be Antaris's initiative. So, what exactly could we see? We could see Sakhalem Shrine Guard attack for 2, and then we could see No Mercy result in the guaranteed bloodying of Broderick Worr here. But if that's the case, then we could see this Snakebite Thug with Catachan Outpost result in the Warlord death of Antaris's Warlord, his version of Broderick, unless there's a shield card in hand. I guess Antaris doesn't have the Commissarial Bolt Pistol. He's got 4 hit points remaining. So, 5 minus 2 is going to be 3, and that means that Antaris' Warlord is going to survive, but I guess I can't do too much theory crafting because there are goddamn invisible cards in Antaris' hand. So, I suppose this is a match with, I believe, 2 European players. I myself am in the Pacific Northwest of the United States, and for whatever reason, we've had a bit of lag, a little bit of disconnect. Will we see Yavharn triggered? I can only imagine that the answer is going to be no, considering Prezi's got no units in hand, but we could see something used to, do some sort of thing that, Antaris, let's say if he had a Mystic Warden in hand, he could Staging Ground that into play. So maybe we'll see it triggered just to dump a Mystic Warden into HQ as opposed to at the planet, potentially. I guess both of our players have got Staging Grounds now. Antaris does have no resources, but Prezi must be concerned about not... okay, so 2 Mystic Wardens are in the discard pile of Antaris, and if there were to be a third, okay, that's going to be a copy of Elysian Assault Team just appearing magically in the HQ of Antaris, and that is definitely something that could change things. So, looks like that is going to be Ammo Depot triggering, and that's going to be the Emperor's Warrant being added to Antaris' hand. So even though we can't see it, the Octagon client has told us, not the players but us, that the Emperor's Warrant is now in that hand there. So that means we've got the Emperor's Warrant, and that means I should be able to look at what the card is earlier. Yeah, so it was an Elysian Assault Teams. There's only 1 unknown card in this hand here, but there is a 2 shield value card, and that means we could see this bloodying. Okay, Sakhalem Shrine Guard with No Mercy results in Broderick Worr being outright bloodied, or we could do something more simple, is we could just have Broderick Worr attack for, well, I guess, hell, what am I even talking about? Prezi doesn't have any shield cards in hand, so the Sakhalem Shrine Guard could just attack for 2. That's going to be a bloodied Broderick. The Snakebite Thug does its thing, and then we could see Broderick retreat. Looks like Broderick actually decides to take a swing himself, and that is going to be a bloodied Warlord, so Broderick bloodies Broderick, and now let's see if this is going to result in Antaris winning at the very last planet during the following turn. This is going to be a Snakebite Thug being boosted up to an attack value of 5. It's going to be able to take an attack. That's going to be the Emperor's Warrant, dropping that attack down to 3, which means that Broderick Worr is going to survive. But I think it all may come down to whether or not one of our players ends up drawing a copy of Preemptive Barrage during this final round, or a Rattling Deadeye, because let's say if Prezi sends all of his guys to this planet during the following round, if he's got a copy of Preemptive Barrage, if he can attack with his Warlord for 2, during ranged, he'll have initiative. Broderick here is only going to be at 1 hit point, and that could well be the game. So this has just been an incredible spectacle indeed. The Emperor's Warrant is discarded. That Snakebite Thug is only going to be able to deal 3 points of damage, so Broderick Worr is sitting here at a very harrowing single hit point. The Sakalem Shrine Guard deals 2 points of damage to the Snakebite Thug. The Snakebite Thug has to deal itself a point of damage, so I'm just going to go ahead and say Snakebite Thug should have a 3rd point of damage due to forced reaction, just because I want to make sure that everything is totally fine there. And then it looks like at the end of the combat round, that Snakebite Thug is going to end up retreating. So this is going to be a forced random card discard, but of course, Prezi doesn't have any cards to discard. So let us see how this is going to end up being resolved. We'll have to not pray, we'll have to hope for both of our players that they end up stumbling upon a copy of Preemptive Barrage. I almost made a very divisive statement there, my dear viewers. And what exactly have our players drawn? I guess we do not get to see what Prezi adds to his hand. Sorry, we don't get to see what Antariss adds to his hand. What is this, my friends? This is going to be a copy of Preemptive Barrage, and that is going to be an Anxious Infantry platoon, so I believe that now this is going to be abundantly clear which player is going to end up winning this match. This is going to be Prezi dumping the Anxious Infantry platoon at this planet. He's going to be sending his Warlord to that same planet. He can use Preemptive Barrage to give his Warlord an attack value of 4. Thanks to Catachan Outpost, he's going to be able to give his Anxious Infantry platoon, well, its base attack value of 3, and that's going to be 4 and 3 during ranged, and that is going to be a very dead Warlord on Antariss' side of the table. So things were looking just incredibly back and forth during this match, but it is time to, I don't know, pay the piper or whatever, and I guess we'll see. You know, I suppose fortune favors the bold. This is like the 3rd video in which I've tried to remember that saying, and I finally remember it. It's not even applicable at this moment, but I just remembered it. Antariss puts out a copy of Tallarn Raiders, which is not going to be enough. Antariss draws a card, but we don't get to know what it is. God damn you, Octagon client and Antariss's internet connection. But let's see. So there's a mystery card added to Antariss's hand, but what on earth is going to be able to allow him to survive? Forward barracks, but that doesn't matter at all at this point. Prezi is going to be able to attack for 4 and attack for 3. Let's say best case scenario, we've got... There's nothing that can stop this now, so both of our players are going to be committing to the last planet. It's going to be victory through Warlord Assassination. This is going to be 2 cards added to Antariss' hand, and there's going to be absolutely nothing that Antariss is going to be able to do this. He's going to win command at this final planet. He's going to add 2 presumable mystery cards to his hand. So look at all of these units. If only it was not for Antariss' Warlord being so incredibly vulnerable. Look at this. It could have been an attack of 2, an attack of 2, an attack of 3, 2, 2. Could have been forward barracks, just totally, blocking off Prezi from having any hope to win the game. We see, like I said, 2 mystery cards being added to Antariss' hand. It's going to be actions here, so Prezi calls out, is it going to be action? And if I was Prezi, I would just be at the very edge of my seat. So it's going to be this preemptive barrage. Prezi did not actually play the Anxious Infantry platoon just because I guess he didn't want to risk an Inquisitorial Fortress or anything like that. I guess we do not see preemptive barrage used, but yeah, I guess that's it. We need not even use preemptive barrage. That is going to be Catachan Outpost augmenting Broderick Worr up to... total combined attack value of 4. We see an action used. Summary Execution, I guess just for fun, is going to be sacrificing an Elysian Assault team. That's going to be dead. We see Staging Ground used to drop the Anxious Infantry platoon into play. We see Antariss use a preemptive barrage, but then we're also going to be seeing Prezi use an exact same preemptive barrage. So this is kind of a sloppy end to this match. Prezi calls out, who are you going to pick with preemptive barrage? So this could have been Prezi's This could have been Antariss's salvation if he'd have picked his Warlord, retreated with his Warlord. If he'd have picked any number of other units, things could have gone radically different for him. He could have picked this, I guess it has to be Astra Militarum faction unit, so it could have been Talon Raiders, it could have been Elysian Assault Team. That could have been 4 points of damage dealt to the enemy Warlord, and the enemy Warlord would have had to use his first combat turn to retreat, and then we could have seen just a ton of damage going out to all of these units here, but it scarcely matters. So what exactly are we going to see? I guess the summary execution to get rid of the Elysian Assault Team was just, yeah, there we go. Prezi calls it out. He says, sorry. So he is going to give ranged to his Warlord. That is meaning that Broderick Worr here is going to be able to attack for 4, and Antariss calls out the GG, so that is going to be Prezi's Warlord with the ability to take a swing. That is going to be Antariss's copy of Broderick Worr killed. That's going to be a Warlord death victory to Prezi, so congratulations to him for advancing to the finals of the Winter 2016 inaugural season of Sam Mann's Black Crusade, the online Octagon competitive league. But regardless, a monumentally well-played game to both of our players, and very well played indeed to Antariss. This is probably one of the closest games I've ever seen. It was an incredible Planet 7 victory. So, as always, I hope you enjoyed this video, and my dear viewers, if you enjoyed this content, be sure to hit that like button and consider subscription to this channel if you've not done so already, or if you are already subscribed, be sure to engage with this content. The more likes, the more shares, the more comments these videos receive, all of it means more people are going to be stumbling upon Conquest. They might give this living card game a try, join our community. They may well one day enroll in subsequent seasons of the Octagon Black Crusade League. If you ever want to get in touch with me, I would encourage you to do so through Facebook or on Twitter. I'm trying to turn the Hive Tyrant page into an absolute community hub, trying to make myself into just a resolute, unyielding pillar of this community. So if you've got gameplay videos of your own you'd like me to promote, if you've got articles, whatever it is, be sure to get in touch. Like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, keep up with all the late-breaking Conquest LCG news, channel updates, all kinds of good stuff. And if at any point you feel inclined to help keep this channel alive, I would be absolutely honored and humbled were you to consider making $1 or $2 monthly contribution to my Patreon. Every base dollar goes to covering my file hosting and operating expenses, and each additional dollar is further reinvested into improving the audio and video content of this channel. So, thank you once again for watching, and as always, be sure to check back in again soon for much more Conquest LCG content to come.